Dr. Terry Johnson is a friend of mine. He's a friend of ours. He's a medical doctor. He's a combat veteran. For the military, he's done both combat and humanitarian missions all around the world. He's been 100% on our side in everything that comes along. Thank you, Terry.
Well, howdy.
Howdy. Howdy.
This is the hardcore residual part that stayed, right? So listen, you've heard a lot today, and I'm really not going to try to drill your brains too much harder here. All those guys running for office, I tell you what, 20 years ago, looking at it from the outside, you know, it's people running for office. After I've been a county coroner and after I've been a state representative, I've learned that the people that are standing up to run for office are doing something that's really exceptional. When you suit up and you go out into the American world of politics these days, it's not an easy thing. I've got great respect for everybody that came in here today and talked. And Josiah, you and Kilo, you're two of my favorite people at the State House. God bless you, and thanks for standing up and having the courage to say the things you say, and to have the conviction in your heart and the passion that you have to do what you do. I really appreciate that. Can we all get a round of applause for Josiah? How many military veterans do we have here today? Back here. God bless you all. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for serving out there. I met a gentleman a little while ago. He says that he used to be a rigger, parachutes. Well, for goodness sakes, how important is that? Someone gets drafted into the Army, and he, winds up in the 101st or 82nd, and the next thing you know, he's got to jump out of a plane in the dark. How important is it to have a good rigger? And so I really appreciate everything that everybody does in the military and the fact that you served. I want to clear up something very quickly. Scott was asked a question about civil immunity. I have a bill right now that no one knows about except for some people that are really paying attention to these things. I'm a huge Second Amendment guy. You probably never heard of me. I suspect you haven't. I don't do interviews.
I have.
There you go. Josiah has. I don't do interviews. Plain Dealer calls me. Dayton Daily News. All these different. I don't do interviews. I don't care to do interviews unless it helps us accomplish something, and usually it doesn't. Typically, a reporter's calling me up, and they want to make a fool of me and you, and I've got no time for that. On the other hand, it's really good to fly below the radar as much as you can and get some stuff done. And I don't really care who gets credit for what I've done. But since I came into the House of Representatives, I've accomplished a great deal. And I've seen things taken away from me by leadership twice that I worked really hard on. But if you went back and you saw my floor speeches in the House of Representatives, if you saw some of the things I've done in the Senate since I've been there, you'll see the passion I have for this. I don't care who gets credit as long as we get the job done. I have a bill right now, it's called Senate Bill 215, and it is permitless carry. I don't call it constitutional carry. Those of you that were watching me with the duty to retreat debate, that was stand your ground. Stand your ground! If you looked at every paper across the United States, stand your ground. And then a lot of us, well, yeah, I'm going to stand your ground, but we played into their verbiage. Stand your ground to them meant, oh my gosh, this cowboy shooting it out in the street. And all we really did was remove the duty to retreat from self-defense. And so I just called it removal of duty to retreat. I called this bill that I have, that everybody's calling constitutional carry, permitless carry. It's really simple. Okay, I just dropped it last week. Why did I drop it last week? Because before we went on break, I was doing fireworks, with the governor vetoed, and I was also doing Senate Bill 22, which was huge. It reestablished our ability to have checks and balances. And so it kind of drug out and we couldn't get it introduced. But here's what it does. It makes it so any place you're allowed to carry with a permit, you can carry without a permit. So it doesn't change the permit law at all. If you want to have reciprocity across the United States, you need a concealed carry license from Ohio. You can still get it. It doesn't change anything with that. If your job requires you to have a concealed carry permit, you can still get it. Doesn't change a thing. On the other hand, if you're a citizen that says, you know what, I'm of age and I have no criminal charges, I'm able to carry a gun. Any place where you can carry with a permit, you can now carry, if the bill passes and is signed, you can now carry without a permit. So in effect, it's what everybody's calling constitutional carry, but I call it permitless carry. It also has two other things in it, and this is of interest to Scott. You don't have to notify, because say you got a car and you have some guy with a permit, and you have a lady sitting next to him, and she's just doing the permitless carry. Well, it gets real confusing when the police officer comes up to the door, and you got one person that is required to say, yeah, I've got a weapon, and then the other person doesn't. So it just gets rid of it. And also, the other thing it does, it makes it so that you don't have to have your license on you. If you have your license at home and you forgot to bring it, you're still good. You don't really have to prove that, and you're in the system anyway. And then the thing that came up about civil immunity. This bill is unique in that it would also make it so that, God forbid, you ever had to defend yourself and you actually took someone's life. Okay? That's a terrible thing. Hardly anybody will ever have to do that. And we are careful, law-abiding citizens. But if you ever do, let's say the police officer takes a look at it and says, we're not going to charge you. The prosecutor finds no reason to charge you. You're good. It's self-defense, clear cut. Well then, your children's inheritance is at stake, because people can come along and sue you civilly and take everything you have. After you've made that horrible decision to defend yourself or your family or whatever's going on, now you've got to go through all this. And how many of us can afford lawyers? None of us can afford lawyers, right? And especially if it gets into a big case. And so what this bill will also do, in the case where you were not charged, and they're not going to bring charges against you because it was self-defense, you can now ask for a civil immunity hearing that will shut that down and keep it from happening. So basically, that bill that I have pending right now will do those things. It's like a sabot round. It's just tight and uncomplicated, and it has a chance to pass both houses. It also has a chance to get past a veto, and Scott made an excellent point. It'd be nice to get it done as soon as we possibly can. So I just wanted to bring that up and let you know what's going on. And then, here's what I really want to say to you today. God, family, country. I want to say that again. God, family, country. When we get the little things right, big things have a chance to fall in place. When we start getting the little things wrong, how can the big things ever work out? When we have our priorities upside down, backwards, when we're told that we need to shut up and sit down, when we're told that the rule of law applies for some people and not others, when we're told that we really can't fool with saying the Pledge of Allegiance in school, and we really can't, have the Star-Spangled Banner because it's so divisive. That stuff has got to stop.
Yes.
Now, we've been talking today about where things need to happen. And we've got to have Congress people. We've got to have senators in Washington, D.C., and we've got to have a president. We have to have those people. But things don't change there as easily as they change here. The center of gravity for fixing everything that ails us in America is here. And it always hurts my heart. It just kills me when we have 75 or 100 people when we should have 10,000. Where is everyone? It's like they're asleep when you have so much for so long. so much for so long, you start to take it for granted. And you have a guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, I love Arnold movies. I love Predator. My kids and I love those movies. But I tell you what, I would have shivered to have him for a governor. I remember when they had the California wildfires and he said, it makes no difference how much it costs. We're going to take... What do you mean it makes no difference how much it costs? Arnold, the people that you're representing pay taxes and they work for their money. You better bet it makes a difference what it costs. And then the other day when he was talking about, oh, we don't want to disturb your liberties. Screw your liberties, he said. And forgive my language. He said that. He could not be more out of touch with the common working person than anyone in America. And he's a Republican. And he says, oh, I know they're going to call me a rhino now. And then the next day you see him with a cowboy hat and some type of weird Gucci shoes or something, in shorts, smoking a cigar, and having no mask, after he said, you should wear a mask. Oh, for goodness sakes.
You see, his father was a Nazi?
I don't know. I don't know. God bless Arnold. And you know, it's no coincidence the first thing that was canceled in Ohio was the Arnold thing, right? You know, listen. Senate Bill 22 was a necessary step to restore checks and balances in the state of Ohio. And now we've been kind of the whipping people for having done it, saying, well, we can't have mandates because, well, listen, the governor can have a mandate. He absolutely can. Senate Bill 22 does not keep the governor from doing anything with his health orders. What it does do is subject those orders to review, and all of a sudden you see a change in the way things are done. God, family, country. Folks, if you think this is the worst it can be, no. Listen, we're a bunch of whiners if we think that. If you go back to the American Civil War, we could not possibly be more divided at any time in American history than the Civil War. Hundreds of thousands of Americans died in the Civil War. Brother against brother, sister against sister, father against mother. It was an incredible thing. And yet we came through it. And Lincoln turned to God and tried to do things to bring us together. We were completely divided and killing each other by the bushel baskets. It was absolutely the most horrendous thing that's ever happened in America, and we came back together. We found ways to unite around common principles. God, family, country. The things I just said are the things that are under liberal and progressive attack more than anything else. I'm a politician that doesn't care to tell you I'm a faithful person. I never will be ashamed of that. I happen to be a Christian. I respect your religion. I respect your ability not to have a religion. That's what America's about. But I tell you what, if you don't have virtue, you can't really be free. Now, what's that mean? That means that if you want to be free, you can do anything you want to do. Well, no, you can't do that. You're not free to pop somebody in the eye. You're not free to shoot them for no reason. You're not free to rob a bank. Well, maybe, like if you were out in Oregon or Washington during the riots, you could do those things, right? There was no virtue there. That was anarchy. That's just nothing. That's our country coming completely apart.
You could do it across the street from the State House a year ago.
I tell you what. Yeah, and how many of those people have been brought to justice?
None.
Yeah.
The city prosecutor dropped all charges.
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic, it was dangerous to incarcerate.
There you go.
But they could go ahead and spend over $500,000 to hire a law source that happens to contribute to the mayor's campaign chest to investigate police officers.
There you go.
Violated people.
There you go. People were bleeding and wandering around inside the State House. How many of those people have gone to jail? That's an absolute travesty. But as bad as things were in Ohio, it was worse elsewhere. So virtue, where does virtue come from? Virtue comes from religion. And America was unique because it was a haven for people who were kicked out of almost every other country in the world because they were seeking religious freedom and freedom from religious persecution by a state religion. They came here and they brought their moral values, and those moral values were encompassed in our documents that were founded upon. God was everywhere in everything they did. And today you see every one of those founding fathers under attack. He did this, and he did that, and he did this, by people who live in freedom because of what they did and can say those terrible, disparaging things. But that religion was there that gave us virtue, that gave us the ability to be free. Great freedom requires great restraint, and it requires a great deal of cooperation among the people who are free. So where it's coming apart is at the family level. You can do something there. Teach your kids about what America really is. I love what you were saying. Absolutely love what you were saying. I'm a doctor, but I was a history major, and I loved American history, and I really loved American military history. I have soaked it up my whole life. And then I was a military officer, and it's kind of like required reading. You got to know how the battles went and what happened. And so I loved doing that too, as like an extra duty that you had. But the American story is absolutely amazing. It's unique. We have been terribly divided, but we've always been able to find things to unite us and bring us back together. In World War II, we almost went down. We were not ready when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody's going off in a different direction. Everybody was mad at each other. We had to find a scapegoat. Oh, the poor admiral that we sunk his career because of what happened to Pearl. It wasn't his fault. He was the scapegoat, and everybody felt a little bit better. We had 3 or 4 carriers at sea. And the Japanese had a huge fleet of carriers, and they knew how to use them. They were good at what they did. And we just went out there and floundered. In that Coral Sea in Midway, we beat them and turned the whole tide of the war with our American aviators just happening to show up at the right time with the wrong stuff. We sunk all the Japanese carriers. That wasn't synchronicity. That wasn't coincidence. That was God's hand in America. That war turned in 3 or 4 months. We got attacked in December 1941. By the spring of 1942, we turned the tide of the war. And by the end of the war, when we only had 3 or 4 or 5 carriers, and some of them being sunk, by the end of the war, we had over 100 carriers and 6,000 ships. America dominated the seas. And we came together as a people. And we defeated the tyrants of the world because we were able to come together. Out of the Great Depression, with 500-year flood taking place in the 1937 area, people being wiped out, Dust Bowl across the Great Plains, and the Great Depression at a time when no one had anything if they didn't work. If you didn't work, you didn't eat. And people were out of work. It was a desperate time, and we came together and came out of that in World War II, and we saved the world. We literally saved the world because we came together as Americans. Today there's $1 billion industry. $1 billion industry, maybe a $2 billion industry. I don't know how much it costs. It's a bazillion-dollar industry. It is gigantic, and it's designed to divide us.
Yep.
Divide us over everything. Divide us over, you're an eastern state, you're a western state, you're a flyover state, you're white, you're black, you're whatever. You're vaccinated, you're unvaccinated.
We're American.
You're an American, oh, isn't it terrible? You terrible American, you. So what we've got to do is fight this. We got to teach our kids to talk to each other. We got to teach our neighbors that it's okay to disagree. Power of the meme. I didn't know what a meme was 3 or 4 years ago. But now you get on social media, and it's just fun, right? You look at these memes. An angry meme never changed anybody's mind. A clever meme never changed anybody's mind. I tell you what I did. Back in 2009, I decided to run for the House of Representatives. And at that time, someone came up to me and said, "Hey, Terry, that's a great idea. I think you make a great candidate. Of course you're going to be a Democrat, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm a Republican." "There is no way you can win the 89th district seat if you're a Republican. What are you talking about?" And if you know what that was Scioto County. And that was Vern Rife's seat. And Vern Rife was the longtime Speaker of the state of Ohio. And it was just solid blue. Solid blue. I was not someone that had any political credentials at all. I'd been a county coroner, but I didn't know anybody. But guess what? I didn't run out and tell everybody, "Hey, I'm a Republican, vote for me." What I did was I looked at the people of Scioto County and Lawrence County and the part of Adams County that was involved in that district, and I said, "I love you." Why? Because you're an American. If you're an American, I bet you $1 you believe in God. I bet you $1 you like the military. I love you because you're a Second Amendment person, your right to life. You may be getting the sense that I'm a conservative. Well, it turns out virtually everybody down there in Southern Ohio is a conservative also. The ones that aren't, God bless them, it's America, you can have your opinion. But I appealed to people's values and brought them together. And in an election I could not win, where I was outmoneyed, I couldn't possibly raise the amount of money that I need to get, I brought them together around values, and I got 60% of the vote. And we flipped a blue district to red, and that happened in 2011, and I was elected to the Ohio House of Representatives. I didn't do it by telling people how wrong and horrible they are. I did it by bringing people to us. How many of you believe it's a good idea to be free? We all do. Why doesn't everybody? How many of you believe it's a good idea to keep your money in your pocket? Isn't that a good idea? How many of you believe the government doesn't need to be involved with your decisions with your family? That's a good idea. But why are we ashamed, or why are we too lazy to take those great ideas to the school board? To make sure that our sheriff is pro-gun. To make sure that everybody we come in contact with understands that these are the best ideas. And I heard it over here. You're the other person that says, "Get off the couch." So the first time I said that, I was with another politician. He about fainted. "Terry, don't tell people to get off the couch. You're insulting them." I said, "Yeah, get off the couch. Go out and do something. Don't wait for somebody else to do it." I've had people all the time say, "What are you going to do about it? What are you?" They're mad. I said, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" "Well, I'll elect you." Go ahead. Go right ahead. You're not even going to vote. Most people that want to yammer like that, they're not even going to vote. So we're going to vote. We're going to vote for people who are for God, family, and country. That's what made America. That's what keeps us together. E pluribus unum, out of many one. Right? Why don't they want to say the Pledge of Allegiance at school anymore? Because it's got God in it. That's why. They get really uncomfortable about that. They don't want the controversy. When you get to a point in the United States of America when the word God is controversial, we're in deep trouble. Yeah. There's nothing about what's going on in America today that the Constitution of the United States and an educated public can't fix. Right. We came through the Civil War. We came through World War II when we shouldn't have. We can come through this.
Yes, we can.
Y'all Americans here? Anybody here is not an American? Raise your hand. I love you because you are Americans. My father-in-law who's passed away, he always got uncomfortable when I said that. He said, "Terry, don't tell people you love them." He just didn't like that. I said, "Well, sorry, Jim, I'm going to do it because I do." And if we were overseas and you were in trouble and I knew you were an American, I'd put my hand out and help you. I'll tell you what else. There are parts of America that people look down on. Let's say Southern Ohio, let's say Northern Kentucky, let's say West Virginia, whatever comes to your mind. But, you know, I've kind of had to put up with this kind of stuff all my life because I was born down there. It's not what you think. Any place you go in America where someone's looked down on, or you got an accent, or something's going on, these are solid Americans who can get anything done. When I was over in Iraq, that country is cursed. They've got natural resources that are unbelievable. They've got water, they've got the ability to grow things, they've got oil, and all they really have is dirt and opposition and turmoil and death and torture and misery. If you could just take all those people out of Iraq and just magically take a whole bunch of people from West Virginia and Southern Ohio and Northern Kentucky and put them over there, we'd have a fantastic country in about 10 years if we took our Constitution and our God with us. Our culture has changed the world. It has lifted people out of poverty. It has increased the lifespan of people all over the world. America has been the great lifting influence for the world and the inspiration for the world. And our freedom is everything. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's not just disturbing my freedom a little bit. It's everything.
Yes.
If you attack the Second Amendment, you can attack the First Amendment. It's a matter of trust and respect. If the government worries about law-abiding citizens having firearms, they don't respect the law-abiding citizen. They don't trust the law-abiding citizen. It's not about that at all. It's about who controls that law-abiding citizen. And I tell you what, I don't like that. What you do coming out here and sitting through all these speeches, all the speechifying has been going on, it's amazing. That's another reason why I love you. God bless America. And I want you to say this with me. Now, nobody likes to do this, but I want you to do it with me. I'm going to say some words. I want you to repeat them with me. God.
God.
Family.
Family.
Country.
Country.
One more time. God. Family. Country. Now I want everybody over there to hear you. God. Family. Country. That's what it's all about. God bless you.